Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Chamber check-in episode from Idaho's only five-star accredited chamber. Today, I'm excited to feature a managed IT company that is a cornerstone pillar of the chamber. It's Allied Business Solutions. And I have president and owner with us today, Tom Beeles. I'm going to bring him on the screen right now.
Thanks, Paul.
Hi, Tom. How are you holding up?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Awesome. So this is probably, let's see, we started these chamber check-ins back in March of 2020. So we're 6 years in a few months, and we featured, I don't know, 650 plus businesses. And I'm excited to feature you today. I've got to see you in and out of chamber stuff. And most recently this year, I really connected with you in the leadership conference that we have in Sun Valley. And you had some great things to say. So I'm excited to feature you today.
Well, thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
So typically we started these things out during COVID, and we were talking about, hey, how are you holding up? How's your team? How's business, right? And now it's really about, hey, let's talk about the origin story of your company. Let's talk about your people. Let's talk about your products and services. So let's start with you, Tom. Give us and the listeners a little bit of background on your history of work and how you became an entrepreneur in the tech world.
Well, I grew up in upstate New York in Syracuse. Went to school at State University of New York at Potsdam, and I had done construction throughout college. So of course, when I was done, I got running a jackhammer and realized that was not fun at all. And I really just picked up and got in my truck and moved to San Diego. Didn't really know anybody, and it was a very interesting experience. I didn't get a job for a little while. I thought a bachelor's degree would get me some great job, but I got a job selling copiers, and I did that for 3.5 years and figured, hey, I think I could do this. And I started a business selling copiers with a partner at the time. Built that up to like 18 employees and sold my portion, my half of the business. And then I messed around for a couple of years and helped out another guy grow his business. And then I wanted to raise a family and get married. So I looked at Denver, Austin, and Boise and just picked Boise. And that was in 2003 when I started this business. Fast forward 22 years, I think. And we got 5 locations and 60 something people, and it's been good. It's been a great place to be. Happy I moved here.
I love those stories of when you got started. Okay, I'm imagining you in your pickup truck. What you put 5 copiers in there, and you're like, I'm not coming home until every single one of those is gone.
Actually, it was 2 trips, I think, in a U-Haul from San Diego, and I thought it was, I thought I knew everything at the time, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. We've got some really smart people living in Boise, Idaho,
That's awesome.
And it was hard in the beginning, not knowing anybody, but it worked out.
Okay. Well, thanks for catching us up to the story, and welcome to Boise. We love having you. And your entire team. We'll talk about them here in a minute, but I think everybody kind of understands what managed IT is, but Allied does so much more. Why don't you give us kind of that 30,000 foot view of services that you guys offer that business can cut their teeth into?
Well, IT in general and what we do, security and compliance, cloud infrastructure, on-prem, and really looking at it from either a managed, where we fully manage a client's network, or it's co-managed. They may have a handful of IT people, and we're handling certain aspects of their network. But, everything from 24/7 help desk to local feet on the ground to security patch compliance, really you name it. Manage print. We manage printer fleets all over the U.S. and AI consulting and automation. Our automation business has really moved more about AI nowadays.
Yeah, it used to be just digitize your business, and now this whole cyber thing and AI has really taken off.
Yeah, it's changed a lot for sure.
With your 60 plus people in your 5 branches, is there a certain industry that you cater to, or is it everybody who needs it, come to us type of thing?
It kind of isn't everybody who needs it come to us. It's from small business to enterprise. Sure, we have, a lot of clients in specific verticals, from construction to real estate to legal to CPAs to, you name it, right? But it really is that middle market up to enterprise. Um, you know, our IT clients are generally, 10 employees to, hundreds, right?
Yeah, for those that don't have in-house IT, it's important to have a partner like yours. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And it's important to make sure it's done right.
We were talking before we went live a little bit about cyber and security. And I think, every business operates in the digital world in some way. What are you seeing that businesses are missing when you guys go do your assessments? Tell us a little, maybe some top 3 points there.
Number one, security gaps hiding in plain sight. They're right there. Backups that aren't tested. And then really no real strategic plan, more reactive instead of proactive. So, hey, we've got this guy, or, we call him when it breaks, or, usually things that aren't being done that are on an original proposal, like patching and testing, like making sure things are coming up to date, because nowadays the patching is very important. We used to take, you could wait weeks. You really can't do that anymore. You really got to be on top of this stuff.
Well, and as businesses want to their workflow needs to be efficient. And now you have all these authenticators, these 2-factor authenticators, and you're trying to get business done, and it takes the time it takes. What type of advice do you have for workflow efficiencies and being secure at the same time?
Well, those are 2 separate line items, right? Part of that is assessing where you're at right now, from a security perspective, and what needs to, what does your stack look like, and what needs to go into place to make you as secure as possible. And it really starts with policy, right? That's the biggest piece, the policy piece, and then the assessment on where you're at to identify, where you're going to go. The workflow has really changed. It really used to be more about, hey, let's look at this AP workflow. Let's look at this workflow for, particular documents that we're doing. And I think, well, I know it's really changed, because now we're doing more of an investigation into what is it this department does, and what does this individual do, and where do they go to get that information, and what do those processes look like, and really looking at it from that perspective, because we're not just going in and saying, hey, you need this great new product, and oh, you need this other tool that's going to capture and automate. It's really about what they do, because the tools for the most part are there now with the new technology. It's they're already there in their systems. It's just a matter of having the expertise to really implement it and use it.
You mentioned assessment, and I think we talked about that's a little bit of some of the services you provide. You can come in and assess a company on, hey, let's see what's going on. Let's look under the hood for a minute. What does that look like? Tell us a little bit about what a client may experience when you do an assessment.
Well, there's 2 main assessments we do. One is just a network assessment, and the other is an AI assessment. The network assessment is really just a snapshot of, we get admin access into their network and poke around and see what their stack looks like, and see if there's anything really looming. Hey, here are the top 5 things that this network really needs right away. So that's a pretty easy snapshot for us. We don't charge for that. Frankly, I wish more companies took advantage of it, even if they have internal IT, because, odds are many companies aren't doing pen testing. They're not realizing where they're at. And that's when I talked about those, security issues that are really in plain sight, in a 5-minute assessment, or maybe it's 30 minutes. My IT guys would be like, Tom, it takes an hour, but I'm like, it's probably 5 minutes, right? We can find that stuff, and at least they can have a little starting point on, hey, here's where we're at, or maybe we need to fix this right away. This came up in red, right, on the report. Now the AI, and having spent a lot of time in AI, that's a little more thorough investigation. Right now, we charge $2,500 for an AI assessment for most companies. Larger ones are a bigger engagement, but that's more in depth to really dive into the weeds on their stack and what they're using, and some individual interviews, and what kind of policies they have now. Who's using what? Do they have they have private Claude or whatever tool it is? It doesn't matter. Do they have private accounts? And diving in to see where are the opportunities for automation to make things easier for people. And when I say that, I mean, what don't you like about your job? This repetitive stuff you do all the time. A lot of that can really be automated, and then making sure that it's the policies are in place to make sure it's secure. What data are we accessing? What data can be accessed? So, I could go on and on about that, but that's a little more thorough. And, we're going through quite a few of these right now, and that takes a lot of time, and AI is going to get more expensive, and so are the assessments that we do. I would bet that in the next 90 days, our assessment cost will be doubled to clients, just because of the time it takes, right? And this is a new frontier, so we're obviously getting better and better all the time as we go through these, right?
You talked a little bit about this at this year's leadership conference, and one of the things I remember is learning all the different types. You mentioned Claude and others, but the thing that rose above everything else was have some boundaries. And you said who's using what and who's using what platform and all of that. Tell us a little bit about why it's important to align strategies and create some boundaries.
Well, I would say, I don't know the exact percent. Well, I'll say 99% of people are using AI, and even if you don't provide it, they're using it. So if you don't have a strategic plan and a policy and have really looked into what you're going to invest in your technology stack, and part of that stack is the software and things you're running. If you don't spend the time to do that, people are going to use their own AI, and it creates problems, right? And it's not efficient either. So you really have to have a baseline assessment of how AI ready are we as a company? Are we AI ready, and what does that mean? Because I can guarantee you, just buying Claude or Chat or whatever flavor you can think of, is not being AI ready. We're using AI. That isn't really where it's at. You got to have a plan, and you got to be very specific and strategic in how you're going to tackle it as a business. And if you're not, I personally believe that you could be really slow to get where you need to be, and maybe be left behind a little bit, just out of sheer productivity from an administrative expense point of view.
Oh, that's great, because I know Idaho and technology has been behind for years, and it's good that we have leaders like you out there that can help us bring us up to speed. That's for sure.
Well, I might disagree with you there. I don't think Idaho's behind on technologies. I think HP and Micron years ago set the bar to have a lot of really smart people here. And I think we have a lot of smart people using a lot of technology here. We really do.
Awesome. All right. Since we're talking about smart people, let's talk about your team. Tell us a little bit about the experience you got there steering the ship, Tom.
We've got some great experience. On the technology side, I've got a few guys that have been with me 10 to 20 years that are absolutely phenomenal, and some new people that are really, really intelligent, very process driven. And that started 10 years ago when we won a contract for an enterprise content management solution. And it really forced us to understand metadata, to understand processes, project management. And I think that was a really good starting point for us to, when AI came, it was like, okay, we're in a good spot here. From the HR and the marketing, we've got Lisa, and we just have a bunch of great people, great service delivery, operations, as far as wanting to take care of the customer. I think I've got a really good leadership team, and really just great people overall, right? Every person's important.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. We can't offer our services without the people. Okay, we talked a little bit about your team, talked a little bit about AI. Hey, is there anything else while we have you that you'd like to educate the public on?
Wow, that's a good one. Look at your IT infrastructure and put more effort into vetting the vendors, and nearly every assessment we do, we find something that isn't a slap in the face to the customer. It's something as a business owner you want to know. We just went through a little bit of a process on business continuity, right? What happens if I get hit by a bus, or our head analyst gets hit by a bus, or our head of IT, or our CFO, right? And I had someone on our team that's very project driven and very technical driven look into it, and we found something that was like, man, it was right in front of us, but it wouldn't be something you'd even find on an assessment, right? It was more in depth. It was just really eye-opening, and it was a good catch, right? And if we're finding it internally and we're in the IT business, you can be assured that most companies have some pretty big gaps, because when companies get hacked, it's like they don't talk about it. No one talks about it. It's this big secret when they get hacked, and they only the information is kept tight, and the only information that goes out is what they're legally held to do for the most part, right? And I think it's happening more than people think. So having that plan on what happens when we have an issue, who do we go to? Companies have a plan for when the faucet's leaking. In the Utah office, there's a plan. Yeah, we go to that guy, right? But on the IT side, where's that plan, right? How's our AI structured, right? I mean, who owns the accounts? Who does what? I mean, this stuff's all really important.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true. We need to be more proactive. And now we have Allied to help us out. So thanks, Tom, and your whole team for all you do for the chamber. Thanks for the membership and the elevated investment throughout the years. It really means a lot to us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be in Boise. It's a great place to be. There's a lot of really great people. Everybody's still nice, and they say hi. We just have a little more traffic, right?
Yeah. Experience that every day. All right. Well, Tom, thanks again for your time. Say hi to the team for us, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you later.